Did I see the simulation? Several months ago, I ingested what many experienced psychonauts refer to as a hero's dose of mushrooms. This was not my first foray into psychedelic realms, but it was by far the most intense and transformative experience I had ever endured. I recall preparing for it quite seriously. In the hours leading up to my trip, I cleared my schedule, tidied my living space, laid out blankets and cushions on the floor, placed a few comforting objects nearby, a soft sweater, a pillow, a framed photograph of a loved one, and made sure there were snacks and water in easy reach. My friend who agreed to sit with me through the experience was calm and reassuring. She had been through a number of these journeys herself, and her presence alone provided a comforting anchor to the real world. Still, I knew that once the mushrooms took hold, any sense of normality could unravel in unpredictable ways. As the mushrooms began to take effect, I felt the familiar onset. That tingling in the back of my neck, the gentle churning in my stomach, a peculiar warmth spreading through my chest, and a heightened awareness of my surroundings. Colors became richer, shapes grew softer around the edges, and the lighting in the room took on a more profound, radiant quality. For the first half hour or so, I drifted in a pleasant state. I felt safe, comfortable, almost lulled by the gentle waves of introspection. My friend sat across from me, quietly observing, offering an occasional encouraging nod or a soft smile. My mind began to wander into new territories, sometimes gently nudged along by the occasional piece of music playing softly in the background. But soon, the experience took a dramatic turn. The mushrooms moved beyond their initial gentle push, and I found myself going deeper into some sort of layered reality. I remember deciding to close my eyes to explore the inner visions more vividly. Behind my closed lids, the darkness came alive with shapes and patterns. At first it was typical psychedelic fare, geometric patterns, swirling fractals, and rippling fields of color that seemed to emanate from an unseen source. Yet, as the minutes ticked by, the patterns mutated into something more concrete, more unsettling, something I had never encountered before. It was as if I had been transported into a space where technology and biology met in a surreal tapestry of sight and sound. I saw myself in first-person view, as though I inhabited a scene that played out in front of me like an immersive video game. Except, this was not a playful virtual world. It was dark, very dark. I felt as though I were suspended in midair, or perhaps in a chamber that was neither entirely physical nor entirely imagined. Around me were black, robotic entities. They were small, almost like nanobots, yet numerous, countless in number, and they circled around me with an eerie intention. These mechanical beings had a strange, matte finish to them, as though constructed of some advanced polymer or metal. They had glowing red eyes that pierced through the darkness with an unsettling intensity. These tiny robot-like beings surrounded me in all directions. Their movements were jittery and insect-like, reminding me of ants or bees swarming around a hive. But instead of the comforting hum of nature, I was greeted by a cacophony of electronic chatter. Beeps, whirs, clicks, faint radio-like static. It was a language I could not decipher, and yet I sensed it was some form of communication, perhaps a data exchange or a series of commands. The sound swelled, and with it, my discomfort grew. I could feel their awareness fixated on me. It was as though they had detected an intruder, or perhaps recognized something unusual in their environment. I became aware that I was not just floating. I was actually connected to something. Tubes extended out from my body, though I could not say from where exactly. They stretched into the darkness, disappearing into some unknown domain. I realized I was in a state of suspended animation, as if I were plugged into a massive, incomprehensible system. This was no longer just a random psychedelic vision. It felt alarmingly coherent, as if I were glimpsing a layer of reality that hid behind the comfortable mask of ordinary life. Fear welled up inside me. The bots, as I came to think of them, seemed hostile, or at least invasive in their attentiveness. Their red eyes glowed brighter, and their movements took on a more frantic pace. With each passing second that I kept my eyes closed, the environment grew more oppressive. The humming and buzzing of their speech, if speech it could be called, intensified. It reminded me of a swarm of locusts or a hive of technologically enhanced insects, though with a distinctly synthetic edge. The realization dawned on me. This felt like a hidden truth, like something not meant to be seen. I wondered if I had broken through some barrier that normally kept such visions at bay. Perhaps the mushrooms had temporarily disabled my mental filters, allowing me to see something fundamental, yet terrifying. My heart pounded. Opening my eyes seemed the only way to escape this nightmarish scenario. The moment I lifted my eyelids, the vision dissolved, and I found myself back in the dimly lit room. My friend sat calmly nearby, and the world regained a sense of stability. The fear abated somewhat, replaced by a residual tremor of adrenaline. I felt safe again. The real world, with its familiar objects, the cushions, the blankets, the soft glow of a lamp, reassured me that I had not lost my mind entirely. Yet, curiosity gnawed at me. Why not close my eyes again and try to understand what I was seeing? Was this some message, some glimpse behind the curtain? Gathering my courage, I closed my eyes once more. Instantly, I was back inside that strange reality. The black nanobot-like creatures were there, waiting, as though time had not passed at all. They hovered, observing me with their unblinking red eyes. I could feel their intense scrutiny. The tubes connecting me to the void still felt present, as did the sense of being held in stasis by an unseen technology. This time, I tried to remain calm, to observe without panic, but it was no use. The sound was deafening. Countless beeps, chirps, and static-laden whispers that crawled under my skin. The visual complexity was overwhelming. I felt like a test subject in a massive simulation, monitored by mechanized sentinels. Finally, unable to endure the intensity, I opened my eyes again. Relief washed over me. My friend had been watching me quietly. She could see I was struggling. She asked how I was feeling, but I hesitated to put it into words. How could I explain something so bizarre and unsettling? Instead, I took a deep breath and mustered the courage to look at her face. At that moment, I noticed something else. The reality around me seemed to glitch. Her face appeared normal at first, but then flickered, as though a hologram struggling to maintain its shape. I saw fragments of creation sprouting from her skin, strange vines or fractal patterns emerging and receding in rapid succession. The walls around us seemed to warp and shimmer, as if rendered by a faulty graphics engine. I blinked hard, hoping to clear my vision, but it persisted. Every time I focused on her face, it morphed. 1 second, she was reclined with her legs tucked beneath her. The next, she appeared upright, her posture changing in the blink of an eye. Then she would revert to her original position. Her face lost color, then regained it, cycling through states of resolution, as though I were witnessing frames in a video game buffering in real time. The environment itself flickered, and I caught glimpses of textures and details that did not align with normal perception. The corner of the room bent at impossible angles before snapping back. The floor's patterns seemed to repeat and overlap. Everything felt unstable, like a simulation under heavy computational load. I tried to speak. I managed to ask, "Are we all dead? Or is this real?" It felt like a profound and urgent question. Were we living in a simulation? Was I witnessing the code behind the scenes? Or had I stumbled onto the afterlife or some intermediate realm where souls or consciousness got stored? My friend looked at me, her expression gentle yet distant, and her answer came calmly. "It doesn't matter." Those 3 words echoed in my mind. It doesn't matter. Was she right? Did it matter whether this was a simulation or the baseline reality? If everything felt real enough to live in, to laugh in, to love in, then what difference did it make if it was genuine or simulated? I realized that I had been clinging to a need for certainty. I wanted to know if I had uncovered a hidden truth. The idea that we might be living inside a colossal simulation had always been a fringe notion, something debated by philosophers and scientists. But now, I was experiencing something that felt too tangible to ignore. The glitching reality, the black robotic creatures, the sense of being a specimen in a larger cosmic experiment. It all suggested that perhaps the world I knew was just a carefully orchestrated illusion. Yet, as I contemplated this, another emotion surfaced. Acceptance. If this was a simulation, then so be it. If reality was layered, if there were programmers behind the scenes or some advanced intelligence running this grand show, what could I do about it? I could struggle in panic, or I could embrace the life I had, simulated or not. After all, my experiences, my love, my friendships, my achievements, my pain, had all felt real to me. The joys and sorrows of life were not diminished by the possibility that this might be code rather than pure matter. Tears welled in my eyes. I felt a sudden rush of gratitude and love. I was alive. I could feel emotions so profound that they brought me to weeping. I could care about people. I could enjoy art, delight in a warm meal, savor the feeling of sunlight on my skin. None of that changed whether the world was real or fabricated. In that moment, a sense of peace washed over me. I let myself cry, allowing the tears to flow freely. My friend approached me and placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. The glitchiness gradually subsided. The room stabilized. Her face no longer flickered through multiple states. The shapes and colors around me lost their jagged instability and settled back into ordinary consistency. The nanobot creatures, the tubes, and the overpowering beeps faded into memory. I was left with a quiet understanding. I had witnessed something extraordinary, and I might never fully comprehend what it meant. After the trip ended, I sat quietly with my friend. We did not talk much about the details right away, as I was still processing. Over the following days and weeks, I revisited that memory, often. At first, it haunted me. I wanted to rationalize it. Perhaps it was just a hallucination, an intense, mushroom-induced dream conjured by my subconscious. Psychedelics are known to produce extraordinary visions, and many people encounter mechanical or cybernetic imagery. The mind can stitch together cultural influences, hidden fears, and abstract concepts into vivid scenes. The resemblance to a simulated reality could be my own projection, seeded by the countless times I had read about simulation theory, watched sci-fi films, or pondered whether reality could be a constructed illusion. Then again, the detail and coherence of the vision unsettled me. I could have dismissed it as random imagery, but it felt like more than that. There was a distinct sense of otherness to it, as though I had tapped into a frequency not normally accessible. The nanobots, the tubes, the mechanized chatter, they seemed to follow a logic beyond mere whimsy. The glitching of my friend's appearance afterward, the fractal growths on her face, and the flickering of the environment around me were eerily reminiscent of a computer simulation under stress. Had I seen the edges of the render pipeline, so to speak? And what about her response? It doesn't matter. Those words carried a weight I could not ignore. As time passed, I came to appreciate the wisdom in that statement. If we are in a simulation, our situation is no different from if we were in any other version of reality. The stakes remain the same. Love is still love. Pain is still pain. We still strive for happiness, connection, meaning. Maybe the entire universe is code. Maybe it is a dream in the mind of a cosmic being. Or maybe it is precisely what it appears to be: a physical realm governed by natural laws. In all cases, what we do with our lives matters to us. Whether or not we are part of some programmed environment does not negate our lived experiences. So, did I see the simulation? It is a question that lingers. I might never know the answer. The universe reveals itself in fragments, and the human mind, especially under the influence of psychedelics, can weave those fragments into grand narratives. I saw robots in tubes that made me feel like a character in a science fiction film. I witnessed glitching scenery, as if reality were a video game pushing too many polygons at once. Yet, I also felt overwhelming love, gratitude, and acceptance, which no simulation could invalidate. The emotional truths I discovered were far more important to me than the metaphysical ones. This experience changed me. It loosened the grip of rigid certainty and opened me to the idea that questioning the nature of reality need not be a path to despair. Instead, it can be a path to liberation. If nothing is certain, then maybe everything is possible. If the universe might be coded or not, I can still find meaning in the small and large moments of my life. I still laugh with friends, enjoy good music, admire a sunset. The value of these experiences remains intact, regardless of the substrate upon which they are hosted. Another aspect that stayed with me was the way fear and peace coexisted. In the realm of the black nanobots, I felt terror, vulnerability, and confusion. In the room with my friend, I felt warmth, safety, and love. Perhaps the tension between these states teaches me that perspective matters. If I focus on the unknown and the alien aspects of existence, I might tremble in fear. If I focus on the immediate, the human connections, and the capacity to feel kindness, I find serenity. The universe may be indifferent, mechanical, or incomprehensible, but I can still choose to harbor compassion and understanding in my heart. Over time, my memories of that trip have softened around the edges, losing some of their sharp intensity. Yet, I still remember the mechanical hum, the beeping chatter, the sensation of tubes anchoring me to a mysterious realm. I recall the flickering of reality, the way my friend's face appeared to glitch and morph, the fractal growth and fading color. All of it remains a reminder that what we call reality is not always as stable and certain as we assume. Our perception is a delicate instrument, easily swayed by chemistry and context. Some people have described similar experiences, encounters with machine elves or mechanical dimensions seen under the influence of psychedelics. Many attribute these visions to the mind's creativity, while others wonder if such states reveal layers of reality beyond the ordinary senses. Ultimately, each person must find their own interpretation. For me, the lesson was humility before the unknown. I cannot claim to have discovered a cosmic secret. I only know that for a short time, I believed I saw something beyond the ordinary constraints of reality. I believed I glimpsed a machine-like underpinning to existence. But in the end, as my friend said, it does not matter. The experience will not change how I must live. I still must wake up each day, nourish my body, nurture my relationships, and pursue what brings me joy. Whether the world is a simulation or not, the quality of my life depends on how I choose to live it. I choose to live it with love, openness, curiosity, and a willingness to accept what I cannot fully understand. So, did I see the simulation? The question may remain forever unanswered. I can hold it gently in my mind as a possibility, a spark of existential wonder. If it is true, then I marvel at the complexity of whoever designed such a universe. If it is not true, then I marvel at the complexity of the human mind that can imagine such a reality under the influence of a mushroom. Either way, I marvel, I wonder, and I continue forward. And does it matter? No, not in the ways that count. I am still here, breathing, feeling, learning. Whether these atoms that form my body and mind are part of a cosmic story written in code or in quarks and leptons, I remain part of something vast and mysterious. The meaning I make of it is mine, and that meaning transcends the question of simulation versus reality. It resides in the everyday moments, sharing laughter with a friend, extending kindness to a stranger, marveling at the stars overhead. Those moments define my existence more than the structure of reality ever will. In the final analysis, the memory of the nanobot creatures and the glitching world has become a sort of spiritual touchstone for me. It represents the threshold between comfort and the unknown. I dipped my toes into a realm that was terrifying and disorienting, and yet I emerged enriched, more at peace with uncertainty. Life itself is uncertain. We do not know what waits beyond death, what lurks beyond the edges of our senses, or what ultimate truths govern the cosmos. But we can still live richly and fully, embracing love, compassion, and wonder. The mushroom showed me a vision, but the wisdom came from within, the understanding that I do not need to solve the puzzle of existence to find meaning. I can carry that insight forward into my daily life. If one day I encounter another glimpse of the simulation, or whatever else lies hidden behind the curtain, I will face it with the same acceptance. I will let it guide me toward gratitude, humility, and a deeper appreciation of the miracle of being here at all. So I end where I began. Did I see the simulation? I might have, or I might not have. Does it matter? No, it does not. What matters is how I live, how I love, and how I find peace in a universe that is wondrously and perpetually beyond my total comprehension.